The morning sun was brutal, turning the Syrian town's pale stone buildings into an oven that radiated heat in shimmering waves. Through his scope, Chief Petty Officer Marcus Webb watched as the SEAL team pushed deeper into the narrow streets, and his gut told him something was very wrong. "Viper 1, this is Viper 2, he spoke quietly into his radio. "I don't like how quiet this is. We should have made contact by now." "Copy that, 2, Lieutenant Briggs responded. "Stay alert. Keep moving." The team was 3 blocks into the town when the world exploded. Automatic weapons fire erupted from a dozen positions simultaneously: rooftops, windows, doorways, alleys. The air filled with the distinctive crack of AK-47s, the deeper boom of heavy machine guns, the sharp snap of bullets hitting stone and ricocheting in unpredictable directions. "Ambush! Contact on all sides!" Briggs shouted. Webb threw himself behind a concrete barrier as rounds chewed up the street where he'd been standing. Beside him, Petty Officer Martinez went down with a scream, blood spreading across his leg from a bullet wound. "Man down! We've got casualties!" The SEAL team tried to return fire, but the volume of incoming rounds was overwhelming. Every time someone raised their head to shoot, bullets forced them back into cover. They were pinned, trapped in a kill box that had been carefully prepared for them. Webb risked a glance around his cover and immediately counted at least 20 enemy fighters visible, with muzzle flashes indicating many more in concealed positions. This wasn't random resistance. This was a planned ambush by people who knew exactly what they were doing. "Viper elements, consolidate at the intersection," Briggs ordered. "We need to establish a defensive perimeter." The SEALs tried to move, but the enemy had positioned themselves perfectly. Every route was covered by overlapping fields of fire. Every piece of cover was exposed to at least 2 enemy positions. The tactical situation was a nightmare. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped in terrain that gave every advantage to the enemy. Another SEAL went down, hit in the shoulder. The team medic crawled toward him, dragging him behind cover while bullets kicked up dust all around them. "We're getting slaughtered here," someone shouted over the radio. Webb fired back at a fighter on a rooftop, hitting him, but 3 more immediately appeared to take his place. It was hopeless. For every enemy they dropped, more appeared. The ambush had been planned with reinforcements ready, with ammunition stockpiled, with every contingency covered. "Viper 1, this is Viper 2. Webb gasped, his voice tight with controlled fear. "We need immediate support. Airstrike, artillery, anything. We can't hold this position." "Negative on air support," came the response from command. "Nearest assets are 20 minutes out. QRF is mobilizing, but they're 15 minutes away minimum. You need to hold." 15 minutes. They'd all be dead in 5. A machine gun opened up from a second-story window, the heavy rounds chewing through their cover like it was made of paper. Webb saw Lieutenant Briggs hit in the vest, the impact throwing him backward even though the plate carrier stopped the round. He'd be badly bruised, possibly with broken ribs, but at least he was alive. For now. "We can't hold," Petty Officer Santos shouted. "There's too many of them." And then something changed. An enemy fighter advancing down the street suddenly jerked backward, a red mist appearing where his head had been. He collapsed instantly, dead before he hit the ground. Webb blinked, confused. What the hell? A second fighter, this one manning that devastating machine gun, slumped forward over his weapon. Silent. No explosion, no visible source of fire, just dead. A third enemy fighter, carrying what looked like a radio and giving orders, spun and fell. The fighters around him dove for cover, suddenly uncertain. "What's happening?" Briggs demanded, pressing his hand against his bruised ribs. "Who's shooting?" Webb scanned the surrounding buildings through his scope, trying to identify the source of fire. And then he saw it, a barely visible figure in a window of a building approximately 400 meters away, partially concealed by shadows despite the bright daylight. "We've got overwatch," Webb breathed. "Someone's providing sniper support." "Who? We don't have any snipers attached to this operation." "I don't know, but they're saving our asses. Look, another one down." An enemy fighter trying to flank their position suddenly collapsed mid-stride. Another attempting to coordinate fire from a rooftop dropped without warning. The confident enemy advance was faltering as their fighters started dying from an invisible, unstoppable threat. "Viper elements, this is Phantom," a calm female voice came over the radio. You're in a prepared ambush site with approximately 45 hostiles. I'm engaging from overwatch position. Recommend you consolidate your casualties and prepare to move on my signal. You'll have a window of approximately 90 seconds once I've suppressed their heavy weapons. Phantom, identify yourself, Briggs demanded. Who authorized you for this operation? We can discuss authorizations later, sir. Right now you have 3 critically wounded and 15 more under heavy fire. Do you want to argue about protocol or do you want to live? Webb looked at Briggs. Sir, she's dropping hostiles left and right. I say we trust her. Fine. Phantom, what do you need from us? Stay in cover for the next 60 seconds. Don't return fire. You'll just draw attention to yourselves. Let me work. When I tell you to move, you move fast toward the eastern street. That's your exfil route. I'll keep them suppressed. The SEALs hunkered down in their defensive positions, and from 400 meters away, Lieutenant Hazel Reed continued her methodical elimination of the enemy ambush force. 72 hours earlier, the briefing room at the forward operating base was crowded with the usual pre-mission chaos. Operators checking equipment, intelligence officers reviewing satellite imagery, command staff coordinating logistics. Lieutenant Hazel Reed sat in the back corner, her presence barely registered by the 20 Navy SEALs who dominated the front of the room. At 28, Hazel was younger than most of them, physically smaller than all of them, and according to the official mission roster, she was attached as intelligence support, someone to provide analysis and assist with communications while the actual operators did the fighting. What the roster didn't mention was that Hazel held the record for the longest confirmed kill by a female sniper in U.S. military history, or that she'd spent the past 3 years as part of a highly classified program that embedded precision shooters with special operations teams, or that her intelligence support designation was cover for capabilities that would make her a priority target if enemies knew what she could actually do. The SEALs didn't need to know any of that. Yet. Colonel Davidson stood at the front of the room, a career officer whose gray temples and weathered face spoke of decades in special operations. Behind him, a large screen displayed satellite imagery of a Syrian border town. Listen up, Davidson began. We have actionable intelligence that a high-value target, Ibrahim al-Rashid, commander of the regional insurgent network, is currently in this town. He's meeting with foreign fighters who've been crossing the border to join operations against coalition forces. Our mission is to capture or kill al-Rashid and gather intelligence on the foreign fighter network. He clicked through several slides showing the town from different angles. The town has approximately 200 civilian inhabitants, most of whom evacuate during the day to work in surrounding farms. Intelligence suggests al-Rashid is using a building in the town center as his headquarters. SEAL Team 7 will be the primary assault element. You'll insert via helicopter 2 kilometers out, approach on foot, breach the target building, secure al-Rashid, and exfil to the landing zone. A SEAL raised his hand. What's the expected resistance? Best estimate is 5 to 10 security personnel with al-Rashid, local fighters, probably armed with AK-47s and maybe some light machine guns, not heavily trained but loyal to al-Rashid. They'll fight if they think they can win. Rules of engagement? Standard. Positive identification required before engaging. Civilians are not to be harmed. Al-Rashid is to be taken alive if possible, but if he resists or attempts to escape, you're cleared to use lethal force. The briefing continued with tactical details, approach routes, radio frequencies, contingency plans, extraction procedures. Hazel absorbed all of it while simultaneously studying the terrain, identifying potential sniper positions, calculating ranges and angles, because that was her actual job, not intelligence support, not communications. She was there to provide precision overwatch and make sure these SEALs came home alive. After the briefing, Lieutenant Briggs approached her. He was tall and confident, with the easy manner of someone who'd successfully completed dozens of similar missions. Lieutenant Reed, I understand you'll be providing intelligence support for this operation. That's correct, sir. You'll be staying at the landing zone with the helicopters, coordinating communications? Actually, sir, I'd like to establish an observation post approximately 400 meters from the target. better sightlines for surveillance, better ability to monitor the situation in real time. Briggs frowned. 400 meters from a potentially hot target? That's pretty close for support personnel. You have combat experience? Yes, sir. Multiple deployments. In what capacity? Various roles, sir. I'm comfortable operating in hostile environments. It wasn't technically a lie. She'd operated in hostile environments, mostly through a rifle scope, eliminating threats at extreme ranges, but he didn't need those details yet. All right, Briggs said slowly. But if shooting starts, you stay in your hide and keep your head down. The last thing we need is to have to rescue you along with completing the primary mission. Clear? Crystal clear, sir. After he walked away, Chief Webb approached. Webb had the cautious, calculating eyes of someone who'd survived long enough to recognize when something didn't add up. Lieutenant Reed, can I ask you something? Of course, Chief. What's your actual job on this mission? Because intelligence support doesn't usually volunteer to set up within small arms range of the target. Hazel considered how much to reveal. Webb was the senior enlisted leader, and if things went bad, he needed to know what assets were available. My official designation is intelligence support. My actual capability is precision shooting. If your team gets into trouble, I can provide overwatch and eliminate threats at ranges up to about 800 meters in these conditions. Webb's expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. You're a sniper. Officially, I'm support personnel. Unofficially, yes. Why isn't this in the mission brief? Operational security. My program is classified. The fewer people who know about precision shooters being attached to operations, the less chance the enemy will specifically target us. But I'm telling you now because you're the senior NCO, and if the mission goes sideways, you need to know what you have available. What's your effective range? In current conditions, clear weather, light wind, daylight operations, I'm reliable and accurate out to about 1,200 meters. For this mission, my shooting positions will be between 300 and 500 meters, well within my optimal range. Webb studied her for a long moment. And you're comfortable shooting in support of combat operations? This isn't a training range. It's people shooting back. I've done this before, Chief, multiple times. I know what I'm doing. Does Lieutenant Briggs know? Not yet. Let the operation proceed as planned. If everything goes smoothly, he never needs to know. If things go wrong, she shrugged, then I'll demonstrate my value. You're asking me to keep operational information from my team leader. I'm asking you to trust that I know how to do my job. When have you ever heard of intelligence support volunteering to position themselves 400 meters from a hostile target? Webb considered this, then nodded slowly. All right, Lieutenant. I trust you. But if this goes bad, and my people get hurt because you weren't what you claimed to be, we're going to have a very serious problem. Understood, Chief. But I promise, if things go wrong, you'll be very glad I'm out there. 72 hours later, when the SEAL team was pinned down in a prepared ambush with casualties mounting, Webb would remember this conversation, and he'd realize Hazel Reed hadn't been making empty promises. The insertion. The sun was already climbing when the helicopters lifted off, promising another scorching day in the Syrian desert. Hazel sat near the door of the lead Black Hawk, her rifle case secured between her knees, watching the landscape scroll past below. The SEALs filled the rest of the cargo bay, 20 operators in full combat gear, weapons ready, faces showing the focused calm of professionals about to do dangerous work. They looked confident. Some of them looked too confident. Hazel had read the intelligence reports more carefully than most of them probably had. The pattern of al-Rashid's movements, the fact that he'd been successfully evading American and coalition forces for 18 months, the suspiciously convenient intelligence that had pinpointed his location, all of it suggested something more sophisticated than a simple target of opportunity. But she wasn't in command. She was officially just support personnel. So she kept her concerns to herself and prepared to do her actual job, making sure these SEALs survived whatever they were walking into. The helicopters banked hard, descending toward the landing zone. The crew chief held up 2 fingers, 2 minutes to insertion. The SEALs conducted final equipment checks, adjusting gear, testing radios, preparing for the transition from air to ground. Hazel checked her own equipment. Custom Remington 700 chambered in .300 Winchester Magnum, chosen for its balance of range, accuracy, and reliability. Schmidt and Bender scope with variable magnification up to 25 times. Suppressor to reduce her acoustic signature, 15 magazines of match-grade ammunition, enough water and supplies to operate independently for 12 hours if necessary. And tucked in a concealed holster, a Glock 19 with 4 spare magazines. Because sometimes Overwatch positions got overrun, and when that happened, you needed more than a bolt-action rifle. The helicopter flared hard, settling onto the desert floor in a cloud of dust. The SEALs fast roped out in practice sequence, each man dropping and immediately establishing a defensive perimeter. Hazel went last, her rifle case strapped to her back, hitting the ground and rolling clear of the rotor wash. The Blackhawks lifted immediately, not wanting to linger where enemy forces might hear them. Within 30 seconds, the sound of the helicopters had faded, leaving the team alone in hostile territory under the bright morning sun. "Radio check." Lieutenant Briggs's voice came through Hazel's earpiece. She double-clicked her transmit button. Affirmative. "Team, move to objective rally point. Reed, you're with the main element until we reach your observation post location." The team began moving through the desert terrain, using wadis and rocky outcroppings for concealment. The temperature was already climbing toward the day's predicted high of 110 degrees. Sweat began soaking through uniforms within minutes. They reached the outskirts of the town after 40 minutes of careful movement. This was where Hazel would separate from the main team to establish her Overwatch position. Chief Webb materialized beside her. "Your building is that 3-story structure at your 11 o'clock, about 300 meters. You sure you can make it there alone?" "I've done this before, Chief." "Roger. Once you're in position, give us a double-click. We'll wait for your signal before we start the approach to the target building." "Understood." Hazel slipped away from the SEAL element, moving through the narrow streets of the town toward her selected building. The civilian population had indeed evacuated for the day. The streets were empty, doors shuttered, only a few stray cats visible in the harsh morning light. The building she'd selected was a partially damaged apartment complex with clear sight lines to the target area. She entered through a back entrance, carefully climbing stairs that might be unstable, checking each step before putting her weight on it. The 3rd floor was perfect. Multiple rooms with windows overlooking the target building, good cover, several exit routes if she needed to relocate quickly. She selected a corner room with the best angles and began setting up. Rifle on a small bipod near the window, positioned back far enough that she wouldn't be silhouetted against the opening. Spare magazines arranged for quick access, rangefinder ready, water bottle within reach, a small notebook for logging observations. Through her scope, the target building was clearly visible 420 meters away. The magnification and clarity of her optics made it feel much closer. She could see details, the texture of the stone walls, the wooden shutters on windows, even the individual tiles on the roof. She scanned methodically, looking for security measures, defensive positions, potential threats. There, a man on the roof, trying to look casual but clearly serving as a lookout. Another man visible in a 2nd-story window, also watching. These weren't civilians. These were security personnel, and they were alert. Hazel keyed her radio. Double-click, in position. "Copy," Webb responded. "Initiating approach now. Keep us advised of any changes to the situation." "Will do." She watched through her scope as the SEAL team approached the target building from the east, using buildings and walls for concealment. Their movement was professional, textbook urban combat tactics executed by people who'd done this hundreds of times. But something was bothering Hazel. The security setup was more sophisticated than intelligence had suggested. The lookouts were too well positioned. The building's defensive preparation looked too thorough for a supposedly impromptu meeting. She scanned the surrounding buildings more carefully, and then she saw them. Subtle signs that made her blood run cold. A piece of fabric visible in a window where it shouldn't be. The glint of metal that might be a rifle barrel. The faint outline of sandbags stacked behind a broken window. This wasn't just a meeting location. This was a prepared ambush site. Viper 1, she said urgently into her radio. Be advised, I'm seeing indications of prepared defensive positions in buildings surrounding the target. Multiple potential fighting positions with... Reed, stand by. Briggs cut her off. We're at the breach point, preparing to enter. Sir, I strongly recommend... The SEAL team blew the door and entered the target building. And in that moment, the carefully prepared trap was sprung. 45 enemy fighters opened fire simultaneously from a dozen concealed positions throughout the town. The SEALs, caught in the open street, were immediately pinned down by overwhelming fire. And Hazel Reed, from her overwatch position 400 meters away, was about to prove that intelligence support personnel could be far more lethal than anyone had imagined. The ambush. The morning air exploded with gunfire. From her position, Hazel watched the SEAL team get hammered by fire from multiple directions, rooftops, windows, alleyways, even from behind walls where enemy fighters had pre-positioned themselves. This wasn't random resistance. This was a coordinated ambush that had been planned, rehearsed, and executed by people who knew exactly what they were doing. Through her scope, Hazel immediately began assessing the tactical situation. The SEALs were pinned in the intersection near the target building, taking fire from at least 12 visible positions. 2 operators were already down. She could see the medic crawling toward them, while bullets kicked up dust all around. The enemy had chosen their positions brilliantly. Every SEAL movement was covered by overlapping fields of fire. Every piece of cover the Americans tried to use was exposed to at least 2 enemy positions. And more enemy fighters were appearing, moving to cut off potential escape routes. Hazel's training took over. She didn't panic. She didn't freeze. She simply began the methodical process of identifying and prioritizing targets. First priority, heavy weapons. She scanned and found a PKM machine gun position on a rooftop, the gunner pouring fire into the SEAL position. That weapon alone was keeping multiple operators pinned. She adjusted her scope for the 380-meter range, accounting for the slight wind blowing from the northwest at about 6 knots. The temperature was already over 100 degrees, which would affect the bullet's trajectory slightly. Her brain processed these variables automatically, calculations she'd done thousands of times. Crosshairs settled on the machine gunner's head, steady breathing, trigger press. The suppressed shot was barely audible over the ongoing firefight. Through her scope, she watched the machine gunner slump forward. The devastating fire from that position ceased immediately. Second priority, leaders and coordinators. She found a fighter who was clearly giving orders to others, pointing and directing fire. Probably a squad leader or local commander. Range, 415 meters. Wind unchanged. Slight upward angle requiring minor adjustment. She fired. The squad leader collapsed, and the organized fire from his fighters immediately became disorganized. Viper elements, this is Phantom, she spoke into her radio, keeping her voice calm and professional. You're in a prepared ambush site with approximately 45 hostiles. I'm engaging from overwatch position. Stay in cover and let me work. I'll call when you have a movement window. Phantom, who the hell authorized you for this operation? Briggs demanded, his voice tight with stress and pain. We can discuss authorizations later, sir. Right now, focus on keeping your people alive. Phantom out. She returned to her scope and continued engaging targets. A fighter with what looked like a radio. Down. Another machine gunner setting up in a different position. Down before he could fire a shot. An enemy fighter trying to flank the SEAL position, eliminated mid-movement. Behind her in the room, she heard footsteps. Her hand moved toward her sidearm before a familiar voice called out, "Friendly! Don't shoot!" 2 Marines entered, her assigned security element that she'd almost forgotten about. They'd been positioned nearby with orders to protect her if her location was compromised. "Jesus, ma'am," one of them breathed, a corporal named Santos. "We heard the firefight start and thought you might need backup." "I need you to watch our flanks and make sure no one storms this position," Hazel said without taking her eye from the scope. "And I need you to keep count of my targets. I'm about to lose track." "Roger that, ma'am. That's 7 targets down so far." She continued shooting. 8, 9, 10. Each shot carefully aimed, each bullet finding its mark. She wasn't rushing. Rushing led to misses, and every miss meant more time for the enemy to kill Americans. The enemy fighters were starting to realize something was wrong. Their confident advance was faltering as their comrades kept dropping without warning. Some of them were looking around, trying to identify where the shots were coming from. But Hazel had positioned herself well. She was shooting from shadows inside a room, with the suppressor masking her muzzle flash and sound signature. And with the ongoing firefight creating chaos and noise, the enemy had no easy way to pinpoint her location. 11 kills. 12. 13. "Ma'am," Santos said, watching through binoculars. "You just took out 2 enemy fighters who were setting up what looked like a heavy weapon. Might have been a recoilless rifle or something similar." "Good catch." Hazel scanned for more priority targets. "What's the SEAL team status?" "Still pinned, but the volume of enemy fire is decreasing. They're starting to return fire now that they're not completely suppressed." Through her scope, Hazel could see Chief Webb engaging targets with his rifle, taking advantage of the reduced enemy fire to fight back effectively. Other SEALs were doing the same, the tactical situation slowly shifting from completely one-sided to something more manageable. But the enemy still had numbers in position, and they were adapting. "Contact right!" Santos suddenly shouted. "We've got hostiles approaching this building." Hazel transitioned smoothly, shifting her rifle toward the new threat. 3 enemy fighters were moving toward their building, clearly having figured out that the devastating fire was coming from this position. She engaged them at close range, 150 meters, 1, 2, 3, all down before they could reach the building entrance. "Building secure for now," she reported, then returned to engaging targets in the main ambush site. "But we might need to relocate soon if they keep trying to flank us." 16 kills, 17, 18. The enemy was definitely adapting now. They were using smoke. Someone had deployed smoke grenades that were creating concealment across parts of the battlefield. Smart tactical response to precision fire. But Hazel had anticipated this. She shifted her focus, engaging targets on the edges of the smoke, forcing enemy fighters to stay hidden rather than using the smoke to advance. When a fighter would emerge from the smoke, she'd drop him immediately, teaching the others that movement meant death. "Viper 1, this is Phantom," she called over the radio. "Enemy is using smoke for concealment. Your eastern route is your best option for movement. I'll suppress the positions covering that approach. When I call execute, you move fast. You'll have approximately 90 seconds before they can reposition." "Standing by," Briggs acknowledged. Hazel identified the 3 enemy positions that covered the eastern route. 2 fighters in a second-story window, a machine gunner on a rooftop, a rifleman behind a low wall. She engaged them in rapid sequence. Window position, both fighters down. Rooftop, machine gunner eliminated. Wall position, rifleman hit and falling back. "Execute, execute, execute," she called. The SEAL team moved as one, carrying their wounded, sprinting toward the eastern route while Hazel provided covering fire. Any enemy fighter who tried to engage them got a bullet for their trouble. The team made it to better cover, a solid stone building that provided protection from multiple directions. They'd broken out of the kill zone. "Phantom, we're in cover," Webb reported. 4 wounded, 2 critical. We need immediate CAS-evac. "QRF and medical helicopters are inbound," Hazel responded. "ETA 8 minutes. Hold your position. I'll keep the enemy suppressed." But the enemy wasn't done. They'd lost the ambush, lost their numerical advantage, but they still had fighters willing to press the attack. And now they'd identified Hazel's position. "Ma'am, we've got a squad-sized element moving on this building," Santos warned. "At least 10 fighters, maybe more. They're coming from multiple directions." Hazel assessed quickly. She'd eliminated 23 enemy fighters, broken the ambush, saved the SEAL team. But if she stayed here, she'd be overrun by sheer numbers. "Time to relocate," she decided. "Santos, grab my spare ammunition. Leave everything else. We're moving to the backup position now." She'd pre-selected a backup position precisely for this scenario, a different building with good sight lines, but approached from a different direction. They had maybe 2 minutes before enemy fighters reached this building. She grabbed her rifle, essential gear, and moved quickly but carefully down the stairs. Behind her, Santos and the other Marine followed, carrying what they could. They emerged from the back of the building and sprinted across an alley toward the new position. Bullets chased them. The enemy had spotted their movement, but they made it to cover before anyone was hit. The new position was less ideal, but still workable. Second floor instead of third, smaller windows. but it had sight lines to where the SEALs were holding, and that's what mattered. Hazel set up quickly and resumed engaging targets. 24 kills. 25. The enemy force was breaking up now, some fighters retreating, others trying to organize one more push against the SEALs. She wouldn't let them. A fighter with a radio trying to coordinate, down. An enemy leader attempting to rally his forces, eliminated. Anyone who looked like they might be organizing resistance, targeted and neutralized. The sound of helicopter rotors grew louder. The QRF was arriving, 4 Blackhawks carrying fresh troops and medics. The enemy force, hearing the helicopters and seeing their ambush completely destroyed, began a general retreat. Hazel let them go. Her mission wasn't to kill every enemy fighter, it was to protect the SEALs, and she'd done that. "Phantom, this is Viper 1, Briggs's voice came through her radio, and now it carried a tone of respect mixed with amazement. "I don't know who you are, or how you shoot like that, but you just saved my entire team. We're evacuating casualties now. What's your exfil plan?" "I have a separate extraction, sir. Get your people out. I'll link up with you back at base." "Roger that. Phantom, thank you. We owe you everything." "Just doing my job, sir. Viper elements, stay safe. Phantom out." She watched through her scope as the helicopters landed, as the wounded were loaded, as the SEAL team extracted successfully despite the devastating ambush they'd walked into. 28 confirmed kills, an entire enemy ambush force destroyed, 0 friendly KIA, though several wounded. It was exactly the kind of performance her program had been designed for. But now her cover was blown. The SEALs knew someone called Phantom had saved them. They'd want to know who, what, how. That conversation was going to be interesting. 3 hours later, after her own extraction by a different helicopter from a different location, Hazel Reed returned to the forward operating base. She was dusty, exhausted, and already anticipating the questions that would come. But as she stepped off the helicopter, she saw the SEAL team waiting for her, and Chief Webb was smiling. The revelation. The debriefing room was packed with more people than it was designed to hold. SEAL Team 7, their command staff, intelligence officers, and several people in civilian clothes who Hazel recognized as representatives from her classified program. Lieutenant Hazel Reed stood at the front of the room beside Colonel Davidson, her rifle case on the table, looking small and tired after 8 hours of operation in the desert heat. The SEALs stared at her like they'd just discovered their intelligence support was actually a superhero. "Ladies and gentlemen," Colonel Davidson began, "I want to start this debriefing by acknowledging that Lieutenant Reed's actions today saved American lives. 28 confirmed enemy kills, multiple high-value targets neutralized, and most importantly, 0 friendly fatalities despite a sophisticated ambush that should have resulted in catastrophic casualties." He turned to Hazel. "Lieutenant, why don't you explain to Team 7 exactly who you are and what your actual mission was?" Hazel faced the room full of SEALs. "My name is Lieutenant Hazel Reed. My official assignment was intelligence support. My actual assignment was precision overwatch. I'm part of a classified program that embeds shooters with special operations teams to provide long-range precision fire support during high-risk operations." Lieutenant Briggs, his torso wrapped in bandages from his bruised ribs, leaned forward. "Lieutenant, you eliminated 28 hostiles in approximately 45 minutes of sustained engagement at ranges between 300 and 500 meters in broad daylight, while your position was under threat of attack. That's not just good shooting, that's extraordinary performance." "Thank you, sir, but it's what I've been trained to do," Chief Webb spoke up. "Ma'am, I need to ask, how did you identify that it was an ambush before we walked into it? You tried to warn us." "Pattern recognition and terrain analysis, Chief. The intelligence about al-Rashid's location was too convenient, too specific. The town's layout created natural choke points perfect for an ambush. And when I established Overwatch, I saw prepared fighting positions that hadn't been there in previous surveillance imagery. The enemy had time to set this up, which meant they knew we were coming." "Intelligence failure?" someone asked. "Or successful enemy deception?" Hazel replied. "They fed us information designed to lure a team into a kill zone. It almost worked." One of the younger SEALs raised his hand. "Ma'am, how do you make shots that fast? Most snipers I've seen take their time, set up perfectly. You were engaging multiple targets in seconds. Hazel pulled up a slide showing her rifle specifications. Custom platform designed for rapid engagement, combined with training that emphasizes speed and adaptability over perfect conditions. In situations like today, fast and accurate beats slow and perfect. The enemy doesn't give you time to set up ideal shots. You have to take the shots you can get and make them count. "What's your effective range?" another SEAL asked. "Depends on conditions. In ideal circumstances, I can reliably engage targets out to 1,500 meters or more. Today's conditions, heat, light wind, good visibility. My comfortable range was up to about 800 meters. Most of my engagements were 400 to 500 meters, well within my optimal zone." Briggs looked at Colonel Davidson. "Sir, why wasn't Lieutenant Reed's actual capability briefed to the team? If we'd known we had this kind of overwatch available, we might have planned differently." Davidson nodded. "Fair question. The answer is operational security. Lieutenant Reed's program is highly classified. The fewer people who know about precision shooters being attached to operations, the less likely the enemy will specifically target them. These shooters are force multipliers, but only if they can operate without being specifically hunted. But now we know," Webb pointed out. "Now Team 7 knows," Davidson corrected. "This information doesn't leave this room. As far as anyone outside this team is concerned, Lieutenant Reed is intelligence support who happened to be in a good position to provide some covering fire during the ambush. Her actual capabilities remain classified." One of the SEALs, Petty Officer Martinez, whose leg wound was bandaged, spoke up. "Ma'am, I was one of the first hit in the ambush. I would have been dead if you hadn't suppressed those positions. Thank you doesn't seem like enough, but thank you." Several other SEALs echoed the sentiment. Hazel felt uncomfortable with the attention, but accepted it gracefully. "You all performed exceptionally under extreme circumstances. My job was to provide support so you could fight back effectively. We're all part of the same team." "Actually," Chief Webb said, "I'd like to formally request that Lieutenant Reed be permanently attached to Team 7 for the remainder of this deployment. Having that kind of overwatch available could make the difference between mission success and disaster on future operations." The other SEALs voiced immediate agreement. Even Briggs, who'd initially dismissed her as just support personnel, nodded. "I second that request, sir. We work better knowing we have that kind of capability backing us up." Colonel Davidson looked at Hazel. "Lieutenant, how do you feel about that?" She thought about it. Working with the same team repeatedly would build trust and improve coordination. They'd learn to communicate better, anticipate each other's needs, operate more effectively as an integrated unit. "I'm willing, sir, if the program approves it." "Consider it approved," one of the civilians said, Colonel Morrison, her program's oversight officer. "This is exactly the kind of integration we've been working toward. Lieutenant Reed, you're officially attached to SEAL Team 7 for the duration of their deployment." The debriefing continued for another hour, going through tactical details and lessons learned. The intelligence about al-Rashid had been deliberately planted to lure Americans into an ambush. The enemy force had been well-trained and well-equipped with sophisticated tactical planning, but they'd failed because they hadn't accounted for one possibility: that the Americans would have a precision shooter positioned outside their kill zone, someone who could systematically dismantle their ambush from a position they couldn't effectively counter. After the official debriefing ended, the SEALs clustered around Hazel, asking technical questions about her rifle, her training, her previous operations. She answered patiently, understanding that this was part of building trust with people she'd be working with regularly. Chief Webb pulled her aside. "Lieutenant, I owe you an apology. When you told me you could provide precision fire support if needed, I thought you meant you could shoot pretty well. What you actually meant was that you're one of the most lethal people I've ever worked with. I underestimated you." "No apology necessary, Chief. You had no frame of reference for what my program does. Now you do. 28 confirmed kills in one engagement. Is that normal for you?" Every engagement is different. Sometimes it's one critical shot that changes everything. Sometimes it's sustained fire over an extended period. Today required sustained engagement because the tactical situation was extremely dynamic. I did what the mission required. How do you deal with it? Killing that many people in a short time frame? Hazel had been asked this before. I think about the alternative. If I hadn't made those shots, your team would have been overrun. Americans would have died. The people I shot were trying to kill your teammates, trying to execute a carefully planned ambush. I stopped them. That's not something I feel guilty about. It's something I feel responsible for doing correctly. Webb nodded slowly. That's a healthy perspective. Better than some of the operators I've known who either don't think about it at all or think about it too much. It's the only way I know how to do this job, Chief. As the SEALs gradually filed out, Lieutenant Briggs approached Hazel. Lieutenant Reed, I need to apologize for how I treated you before the mission. I dismissed you as support personnel who'd be a liability. Instead, you turned out to be the most valuable asset on the entire operation. You had no way of knowing, sir. My cover story is designed to be believable. Still, I should have listened when you warned us about the ambush indicators. We might have avoided walking into it if I hadn't been so focused on executing the original plan. Lessons learned, sir. Now you know what to watch for in future operations. Briggs extended his hand. It's an honor to work with you, Lieutenant. I'm glad you'll be attached to the team going forward. She shook his hand. The honor is mine, sir. After everyone else left, Colonel Morrison approached her. Outstanding work today, Hazel. Your performance validated every assumption we made when we created this program. How do you feel? Tired, sir. It was a long day. I mean about your cover being compromised with Team 7. It was inevitable once I had to engage. Better to be outed as a highly capable shooter than to watch Americans die because I maintained operational security. I made the right call. I agree. And now you have an entire SEAL team who trust you and understand your capabilities. That's valuable. Use it. Build on it. Show them what integrated precision fire support can accomplish. Will do, sir. Morrison headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. The intelligence community wants to know how you identified the ambush before the team walked into it. That kind of analytical ability combined with your shooting skills makes you exceptionally valuable. Keep developing both. After he left, Hazel was alone in the debriefing room with her rifle case and her thoughts. She'd spent years training for situations exactly like today. Dynamic, high pressure, lives hanging on every shot, and she'd performed exactly as she'd been trained to. 28 confirmed kills, 0 friendly KIA, mission success despite walking into a sophisticated ambush. But she knew this was just the beginning. Now that SEAL Team 7 understood her capabilities, they'd integrate her into their planning, give her opportunities to do what she did best, rely on her to protect them when operations went bad. She transitioned from secret weapon to known quantity. And that meant the stakes would only get higher. Hazel Reed had been just intelligence support that morning. Now she was something else entirely. The guardian angel who'd saved an entire SEAL team from annihilation, the precision shooter who'd destroyed an ambush from 400 meters away, the force multiplier who'd proven that one highly skilled operator in the right position could change the entire outcome of a battle. And in a forward operating base somewhere in Syria, 20 Navy SEALs were going to sleep that night knowing that tomorrow, when they went back out into hostile territory, someone would be watching over them. Someone who never missed. 3 weeks later, the pre-dawn briefing room was quieter than usual. SEAL Team 7 had conducted 8 operations in the 3 weeks since the ambush, and every single one had been successful with 0 friendly casualties. Word had spread quietly through the special operations community. Team 7 had someone special attached to them, someone who made impossible shots and kept operators alive. Lieutenant Hazel Reed sat in her usual spot, no longer relegated to the back corner. Now she sat with the team, part of the tactical planning from the beginning. Her input on approach routes, overwatch positions, and threat assessment was valued as much as any operator's. This morning's briefing was different, though. Colonel Davidson's expression was grim as he pulled up satellite imagery. "We have a situation," he began without preamble. "A coalition convoy was ambushed in a canyon approximately 30 kilometers from here. They're pinned down with multiple casualties, surrounded by an estimated 50 to 60 hostiles. The quick reaction force attempted to reach them, but was also engaged and forced to withdraw. We have approximately 30 coalition personnel trapped in a kill zone, and they will be overrun within the next 90 minutes unless we intervene." He zoomed in on the canyon imagery. "The terrain makes traditional air support difficult. The canyon is narrow with high walls. Helicopters can't maneuver safely, and fixed-wing aircraft can't get low enough for precision strikes without extreme risk. The trapped personnel are mixed in too closely with the enemy for indiscriminate fire." Lieutenant Briggs studied the imagery. "What's the plan, sir?" "Team 7 will insert at the canyon rim. You'll establish elevated positions overlooking the battlefield and systematically eliminate the enemy force using precision fire. This is essentially a sniping operation on a large scale." He turned to Hazel. "Lieutenant Reed, this mission is built around your capabilities. You'll be the primary shooter. The team will provide security, additional fire support, and help you identify and prioritize targets. Your objective is to eliminate enough of the enemy force that the trapped personnel can break out and reach safety." Hazel studied the terrain carefully. "What's the range from the canyon rim to the enemy positions?" "Between 400 and 700 meters, depending on their location in the canyon." "Enemy composition?" "Mixed fighters. Some are well-trained, some are local militia. They've positioned themselves on both sides of the canyon, on the canyon floor, and in elevated positions. It's a well-executed ambush that's trapped the convoy in an ideal kill zone." "Time of operation?" "We launch in 30 minutes. It'll be full daylight when you engage. Temperature will be over 105 degrees by the time you're in position." Hazel ran calculations in her head. 50 to 60 targets, variable ranges, heat distortion from rising temperatures, high-pressure situation where every shot mattered because lives were at stake. "I'll need multiple spotters to help track targets and confirm kills. Security element to protect our position in case they try to flank us. And I'll need the SEALs to engage targets of opportunity to keep the enemy distracted while I eliminate priority threats." "You'll have it," Briggs confirmed. "What's your target priority?" "Heavy weapons and crew-served guns first. Those are doing the most damage to the trapped convoy. Then, anyone coordinating the enemy forces, leaders, radio operators. Then, concentrated fire on the enemy positions directly threatening the convoy. Finally, suppress any attempts to flank or escape." Chief Webb leaned forward. "How many targets can you realistically eliminate before they adapt and start making it harder for you?" "In a target-rich environment with good support? Maybe 30 to 40 before they really figure out what's happening and start taking serious countermeasures. After that, it becomes more difficult, but still manageable." The briefing continued with detailed tactical planning. 30 minutes later, Hazel was in a Black Hawk helicopter heading toward the canyon, her mind already running through the engagement sequence. They inserted on the canyon rim under the brutal morning sun. The sound of ongoing firefight echoed up from below, automatic weapons, explosions, the distinctive crack of rounds impacting rock. People were dying down there, and Hazel Reed was about to give them a chance to live. The team moved quickly to establish positions along the canyon rim. Through her scope, Hazel could see the battlefield clearly, the trapped convoy vehicles clustered in the center of the canyon, surrounded on three sides by enemy fighters who were systematically destroying them. "Spotters, priority targets?" she asked. "Heavy machine gun position, canyon east wall, range 573 meters. They're pouring fire into the convoy." Hazel found the position. Two fighters manning a belt-fed machine gun, protected by sandbags they'd obviously pre-positioned. She adjusted for the extreme range and the heat distortion that was already creating mirage effects. First shot took the gunner, second shot eliminated his assistant. The devastating fire from that position ceased. Second heavy weapon, west wall, range 615 meters. She engaged and eliminated it. 2 shots, 2 kills, another heavy weapon silenced. Multiple targets attempting to flank the convoy from the south, range 480 meters, approximately 8 fighters visible. Hazel transitioned to the new threat. She began engaging the flanking force methodically, dropping fighters one by one. After the fourth kill, the remaining fighters broke and ran, their flanking attempt defeated. The SEALs were providing supporting fire now, engaging targets across the canyon. But it was Hazel's precision shooting that was systematically dismantling the enemy force. 10 kills, 15, 20. Enemy commander visible, north end of canyon, range 690 meters. He's attempting to coordinate the attack. Hazel found him, an older man with a radio, surrounded by several fighters who were clearly receiving his orders. She adjusted for the extreme range, accounting for the wind that was starting to pick up as the day heated. The shot felt perfect. The commander dropped, his radio falling from his hands. The enemy coordination immediately became chaotic. 25 kills, 30, 35. "Angel, this is ground element," a voice came over the radio, the convoy commander. "We're starting to maneuver. Enemy pressure is decreasing significantly. Whatever you're doing, it's working. We're going to try to break out while they're disorganized." "Roger that," Hazel responded, never taking her eye from the scope. "Moving to support your breakout. Give me your route." "We're heading east toward the canyon mouth." Hazel shifted her focus, identifying enemy positions that could threaten the convoy's escape route. She began eliminating them, machine gunners, riflemen, anyone who might be able to engage the retreating vehicles. 40 kills, 45. Behind her, Chief Webb was watching through binoculars. "Ma'am, you've been shooting for 22 minutes straight. How are you still maintaining this accuracy?" "Training and focus, Chief, and knowing that every shot I miss might cost someone their life. That's excellent motivation to not miss." The convoy was moving now, vehicles navigating the difficult terrain while the SEALs and Hazel provided covering fire. Enemy fighters who tried to engage them were immediately targeted and eliminated. 50 confirmed kills. "Ground element is clear of the canyon," the convoy commander reported. "All personnel accounted for, multiple wounded but no fatalities. Angel, I don't know who you are, but you just saved 30 coalition lives. Thank you." "Glad everyone made it, sir. Stay safe." The enemy force, having lost more than half their strength and all their leadership, began a general retreat. The ambush had failed catastrophically. What should have been an overwhelming victory for them had become a slaughter. Hazel safed her rifle and began packing her gear. 53 confirmed kills in 22 minutes of sustained engagement. Another mission success. Another group of Americans who'd survived because someone was watching over them. "Outstanding work, Lieutenant," Briggs said, approaching her position. I don't even have words for what that was. You just dismantled an entire enemy force single-handedly." "I had help, sir. The teams supporting fire kept them disorganized. The spotters helped me identify priority targets. This was a team effort. A team effort where you personally eliminated more than half the enemy force." He shook his head in amazement. "I've been a SEAL for 11 years. I've worked with some of the best operators in the military, but what you can do, that's on another level entirely." Back at the base, the debriefing was shorter than usual. Everyone had seen what happened. 53 confirmed kills in one engagement, under extreme conditions, with perfect tactical timing. But more importantly, 30 coalition personnel alive who wouldn't have been without her. Colonel Davidson pulled Hazel aside after the debrief. "Lieutenant, your performance over the past 3 weeks has exceeded every expectation. Your program is being expanded based on your results. We're training more shooters, attaching them to more teams. You've proven the concept works." "That's good to hear, sir. But I need you to understand something. You've become a known quantity. Other teams are requesting you specifically for high-risk operations. Commanders want you on Overwatch for their missions. You're in high demand." "Is that a problem, sir?" "It's a complication. You're currently attached to Team 7, but there will be pressure to detach you for other operations. How do you feel about that?" Hazel thought about the past 3 weeks. Working with the same team repeatedly had built trust and improved their integrated effectiveness. "I'd prefer to stay with Team 7 for now, sir. We've developed good working relationships. We understand each other's capabilities. That makes us more effective as a combined unit." "I'll support that preference, but be prepared. In this business, you go where you're needed most." "Understood, sir. That evening, the entire SEAL Team 7 invited Hazel to an informal gathering. They presented her with a small memento, a wooden plaque with her call sign engraved on it. Angel, Guardian of Team 7. Chief Webb raised a canteen and toast. To Angel, the best Overwatch we've ever had, the deadliest shooter we've ever worked with, and most importantly, the person who makes sure we all get to go home. Thank you for watching our backs. The team echoed the sentiment, and Hazel found herself unexpectedly emotional. She'd spent years training in isolation, operating alone, being the secret weapon that nobody talked about. Now she had a team. People who trusted her, respected her, valued her not just for what she could do, but for who she was. Thank you, she said quietly. All of you. For accepting me, for trusting me, for letting me do my job. Every time I look through that scope, I'm thinking about keeping you alive. That's my mission. That's my purpose. And I will never stop being the person you can count on when things go wrong. Lieutenant Hazel Reed had started as just intelligence support, cover for capabilities most people didn't know existed. Now she was Angel, the guardian angel who'd saved over 100 American lives in 3 weeks through precision, skill, and unwavering commitment. And somewhere in the Syrian desert, enemy fighters were learning to fear the daylight hours, when a shooter they couldn't see would drop them from ranges they couldn't imagine. The guardian who never missed. The angel watching from above. The sniper who proved that one person in the right position with the right skills could change everything. 6 weeks later, the training facility at Quantico was filled with some of the best snipers from every branch of the military. Marines, Army Rangers, Navy SEALs, Air Force Special Operations. All of them had been selected for a new program that would change how precision shooters integrated with special operations teams. Lieutenant Hazel Reed stood at the front of the classroom, her custom rifle disassembled on the table beside her, each component labeled for the demonstration. She was back in the States temporarily, pulled from deployment to help establish the training curriculum for the expanded program. Welcome to the Integrated Precision Fire Support course, she began. Some of you have heard stories about operations in Syria where precision shooters provided overwatch for SEAL teams. I'm here to tell you those stories are real, and you're here to learn how to do what I've been doing for the past year. She picked up her rifle's bolt assembly. This course isn't just about making you better shooters. You're already excellent shooters, or you wouldn't be here. This is about teaching you to integrate with special operations teams, to think tactically about how precision fire can support maneuver elements, and to operate effectively under the extreme pressure of knowing that American lives depend on every shot you take. One of the students, a Marine Scout sniper named Staff Sergeant Torres, raised his hand. Mainushi. Ma'am, the after-action reports from your operations show over 200 confirmed kills across multiple engagements. How do you maintain that level of performance consistently? Training until the skills become automatic, understanding that every shot matters, and accepting that this job comes with immense responsibility. When SEALs are pinned down taking casualties, they're calling for you. When convoys are ambushed, you're their lifeline. That responsibility drives everything: your training, your preparation, your mindset. Another student spoke up. Ma'am, how do you handle the psychological pressure? Most snipers take 1 or 2 shots per mission. You've engaged dozens of targets in single operations. Hazel had anticipated this question. You learn to compartmentalize during the operation. When I'm behind the scope, I'm not thinking about the broader implications. I'm thinking about windage, elevation, target priority, and making sure the round goes exactly where it needs to go. The processing happens later, after everyone's safe. During the fight, you can't afford to think about anything except the mission. A SEAL instructor approached with a tactical map. Ma'am, can you walk us through your decision-making process during the canyon rescue operation? How did you prioritize 50-plus targets in real time? Hazel pulled up imagery of the canyon on the classroom screen. Target prioritization follows a hierarchy. First, Threats that can cause mass casualties, heavy weapons, crew-served guns, anything that can destroy vehicles or kill multiple people quickly. Second, enemy leadership and coordination. Take out the people giving orders and the formation falls apart. Third, direct threats to friendly forces, anyone actively engaging your team. Fourth, targets of opportunity that support the overall mission. She pointed to specific positions on the map. In the canyon operation, I started with the 2 heavy machine guns that were shredding the convoy. Eliminated both in under 30 seconds. Then, I targeted the enemy commander who was coordinating the attack. Once he was down, their tactical cohesion degraded significantly. After that, it was systematic engagement of threats based on proximity to friendly forces. The classroom session continued for 2 hours, with Hazel sharing techniques, lessons learned, and tactical insights from her year of operational experience. The students absorbed everything, understanding that they were learning from someone who'd proven these concepts in actual combat. After the session, Colonel Morrison approached her. "Excellent instruction, Hazel. The students are getting exactly what they need from you, not just technical skills, but the mindset required for this mission." "Thank you, sir. How long will I be here?" 2 more weeks, then you're rotating back to Syria. SEAL Team 7 has specifically requested your return. They've got a high-priority operation coming up, and they want their angel back on Overwatch." Hazel smiled. She'd been away from the team for 6 weeks, and she missed it. Missed the camaraderie, missed the sense of purpose, missed knowing she was making a direct difference in keeping Americans alive. "I'm ready to go back, sir." "I know you are. But first, finish training these shooters. Every person you teach is someone else who can protect American forces. Your impact extends beyond your personal operations. You're building a capability that will save lives for years to come." That evening, Hazel stood on the Quantico rifle range, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and red. In 2 weeks, she'd be back in Syria, back with Team 7, back to doing what she did best. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Chief Webb. "We miss our angel. The team's not the same without you watching over us. Hurry back." She smiled and typed a response. 2 weeks, Chief. Then I'm back on Overwatch. Keep everyone safe until I get there." Another message came through, this one from Lieutenant Briggs. "Got a mission that's going to need your special touch. Can't give details over phone, but it's the big one, the kind that changes everything. We need you." Hazel looked at the rifle range, then at her phone, then at the horizon where Syria waited thousands of miles away. She'd started this journey as a precision shooter trying to prove a concept. Now she was building a program, training the next generation, and preparing to return to the team that had become her family. Some people spent their careers wondering if they made a difference. Hazel Reed knew exactly what difference she made. Over 200 enemy fighters eliminated, over 100 American lives saved, multiple high-risk operations turned from potential disasters into overwhelming successes. And in 2 weeks, she'd be back in the fight, back on Overwatch, back to being the angel that SEAL Team 7 counted on when everything went wrong. The guardian who never missed, the angel watching from above, the sniper who'd proven that precision, skill, and unwavering dedication could change the outcome of any battle. She was ready. She'd always be ready. That's what made her angel.